Hey everybody, it's Mike from Cider Table. We're back with another cider for our Summer of Pennsylvania Ciders. And this week we have a really cool cider from Kurant, which is out in Philadelphia. Now, they were supposed to be at Pennsylvania Cider Fest back in June, but they weren't able to make it because they were opening up their new tasting room, somewhere we're really excited to check out. And when I was talking to Ben from Plowman Cider, he thought it was a real shame that we weren't going to get a chance to try the Kurant ciders for the summer. So I saw him last week, actually. He was out here in Pittsburgh, and he was kind enough to bring a really, really interesting cider from Kurant for us. This is their Viejo, and it's a Spanish Sidra style cider. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second, but we wanted to share this one with you because there's no one else really in Pennsylvania that I know of who's making a Sidra style cider. So it's really awesome. Okay, so Spanish Sidra. It's something that a lot of people might not know. In Spain, there's a really long tradition of making cider, but they make their ciders very different than we make them here. They're all wild, fermented. That means they take the natural yeasts and bacteria, I guess, is whatever's on the skins of the apples when they're picked, and that's what's used to ferment the cider. And what that does is it brings a really interesting, funky, and acidic character to the cider that we're not used to at all here. So it's very, very different from what you're used to if you're used to drinking regular American ciders, sweet ciders, what we would call a modern cider. And I don't know, again, like I said, if anyone else in Pennsylvania is doing this. So it's really, really cool that Joe from out at Kurant is making this cider. So in addition to being wild fermented, it's also been aged for, I don't know, 6 to 18 months, I think is what it says on the website, in oak, which brings a real mellow character to it, but also some of that wood and tannin character as well. So when you have a Spanish-style Sidra, they're still ciders as well, so they're not carbonated. And the way that traditionally you pour a cider is you pour just a little bit in the glass at a time from a really high height. And the reason you do that is that aerates it a little bit, giving it a little bit of bubble. Drink a little bit, then you pour a little bit more. Drink a little bit, pour a little bit more. It's called throwing cider in Spanish. I might try to show a little video of that a little bit later. I'm not very good at it. I make a big mess. But anyway, quick tasting notes. So, like I said, funky and acidic is what you're looking for in a Sidra, and that's really what you have here. It almost smells a little bit like vinegar, but you also get some of that wood note from the oak aging. Really smells great. Really something interesting and different. Again, if you're not used to this sort of thing, you might be taken a little off guard, but I know a lot of people right now are drinking sour beers. So this is kind of up the same alley as that. And when you taste it, that acid hits you right in the back of the throat. Think about if you're eating something that has a lot of vinegar in it, that acid hits you right in the back of the throat. That's what you get, but it's very refreshing. It's very crisp and light. And there's a lot of tannins in here as well. So tannin is something that gives a lot of mouthfeel. And think about when you're drinking a red wine, you get that drying character in your mouth. That's really coming through here as well, again, from the oak aging and from the great apples that they were using to make this cider. So I'm really enjoying this. You could definitely have food with this. It would really help, I think, to cut that acidity. Maybe something with some cream in it, something with some fat in it. Think of what the Spanish would eat when they're having their tapas. Cheeses, cured meats, things like that would all go really, really well with something like this. So again, this is Viejo, which means old, basically, so because it's been aged. Viejo from Kurant Cider out in Philadelphia. Joe, you did a really awesome job on making this one. Spanish-style Sidra. The only ones that I know of, again, in Pennsylvania who are doing this style. If you can find this, definitely pick up a bottle of it. Check it out, especially if you're a fan of sour beers, or if you just like to try something really interesting and different, give it a shot. Check us out on thecidertable.com and on Instagram, Facebook, at Cider Table. Let us know what you think if you give this a shot, or if you've ever had a Sidra before. I'm going to go back to drinking this a little bit, maybe try to pour it from a height, throw a little bit of cider. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.